The annual exodus is a constant of our geography, but this year, it feels like an escape. For many, it is a flight to the provinces or a race to the coast. A mass migration of millions chasing a version of peace that now requires a high premium bus ticket or a full tank we can barely afford. But across every province and city, under the heavy shadow of a recently declared national emergency, a different kind of marathon begins, where devout seeking stillness. The Visita Iglesia. This tradition now carries the weight of our world on edge. We are measuring our fate against the rising cost of mobility and the paralysis of transport strikes, realizing that in 2026, even the path to the altar has a price of entry. With oil prices pushing the boundaries of our daily survival, the act of visiting seven churches is no longer just a spiritual vow. It is a calculated exchange of resources. The pews aren't just empty for meditation, they are thinning out because the logistics of devotion have become a scarcity. We applaud the grit it takes to brave the heat, but we are terrified of the stillness that waits when the signal dies and the news cycle stops. We are looking for an escape from the chaos, but escape is getting more expensive by the day. Look at the stone, the shadows. These are the places where the silence is so thick we can finally hear ourselves think. This isn't just a ritual, it's a trade-off. This is the threshold of the fast. We begin at San Agustin, the oldest stone church in the country. It has survived 7 major earthquakes and the devastation of the Battle of Manila. It's standing as a historical anchor in a volatile market. Standing here, looking at walls that have withstood artillery fire, it is impossible not to think of the concrete currently crumbling in Iran and across the Middle East. Wars still tear through the sacred spaces of the world, a reminder that peace is a fragile, depreciating asset that we often take for granted until the ruins are all that's left. Yet here, the structure remains, a sanctuary that has outlasted empires. But today, as a city prepares to empty itself, it feels like a museum of a faith we started to perform rather than practice. We are living at the peak of a simulated lifestyle where the sanctuary is often treated as a backdrop for a digital ledger rather than a place of refuge. The sanctuary is no longer just a place of prayer. It has become a stage for a performance of piety, where the image of the prayer is worth more than the prayer itself. We've reached a point where the aesthetic of being devout is more valuable than the quiet work of actual devotion. To stand in this space is to realize that the most scarce commodity in 2026 is a mind that isn't for sale. We want a dividend of peace without the capital investment of being still. If we only value these spaces for how they look on a screen, we are missing the point of this structure entirely. It was built to be a vessel for the unspoken, not a set for the seen. Across the river in Binondo, the air changes. Here, the San Lorenzo Ruiz Church sits at the heart of the world's oldest Chinatown, a place where faith and commerce have shared the same square meter for centuries. In this neighborhood, everything has a price tag, and time is the most aggressive currency. Amidst the tension of the national emergency and the halted movement of the streets, this church remains a quiet island in a sea of trade. It reminds us that our spiritual life lives right next to the ledger of our survival. In Binondo, the trade-off is visible. People step inside with their grocery bags and their business worries, offering a few minutes of prayer before diving back into the hustle. It is a raw, honest exchange. There is no simulated quiet here. There is only the constant negotiation between the need to earn and the need to breathe. We see that for the ordinary worker, devotion isn't a luxury. It's a necessary pause in an exhausting simulation of productivity. We often think of sanctuary as a place far away from the market, but Binondo proves that the most powerful silence is the one found in the middle of the noise. If we can't find peace where we work, we won't find it where we rest. The true value of this space isn't in its gold altars, but in its ability to remain standing while the world outside refuses to slow down. It is the ultimate hedge against a world that demands we never stop moving.
Sa bakit?
Ano ka?
Ano yan, Yem?
Bago naman yung kapit.
This is the newest frontier, the St. John Paul II Church in Parqal. This is the sanctuary of the modern grid, a church built into a high-end commercial spine of glass and steel. It represents the 2026 reality of integrated living, where the sacred is tucked between retail shop and office towers. It is clean, climate-controlled, and convenient. But in a week defined by transport strikes and social unrest, the ethereal beauty of this space feels almost surreal. A frictionless bubble in a world full of jagged edges. This space reflects our desire for a sanitized life. We want our peace to be accessible, predictable, and aesthetic. It is a beautiful simulation of the traditional plaza, updated for a generation that values efficiency over endurance. But there is a risk in this modernization. When the church becomes part of the commercial landscape, the line between worshipper and consumer begins to blur. We must ask if we are seeking a connection or if we are just seeking a comfortable break from the heat. Even in this polished environment, the human need remains the same. Whether it's ancient stone or modern glass, we are all looking for a place where we don't have to produce anything to be worthy of existing. The architecture has changed, but the trade-off hasn't. We are still giving up our time to buy back our sanity in a world that feels like it's slowly breaking apart. We often think of faith as a megaphone, but looking at these three very different walls feels more like a threshold. A heavy, stubborn door. It knows when to swing open, and more importantly, it knows when to stay shut against the chaos. In the 2026 market of opinions and national emergencies, the hardest part of the journey isn't finding the destination. It's knowing exactly what and who to shut out. If we don't firstly protect our own silence, the world's noise will always find a way to make itself at home in our heads. Once the house is full of everyone else's loud opinions, there isn't any room left for us to figure out who we actually are. We become a portfolio of other people's expectations, leaving no equity for our own souls. We trade our identity for a sense of belonging in a crowd that doesn't even know our names. The heaviest door we will ever push is the one that forces us to face ourselves in the quiet. The path forward is in our hands, but the silence, that's something we have to choose. If you had to choose between the cost of the trip and the cost of staying still, which one would you pay?